Let's do this. Richard Hart, the infamous creator of Hex, Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Ink token, has rarely done any media besides X posts. The last thing that we got from him was a Christmas video where he updated us on how he's doing, a little bit about the SEC case, and dropping a lot of knowledge, but it's audio only. Gone are the days where he's done the 4-hour video live streams. But hey, could be worse. So I want to go into this and talk about the details. Now that we've had some clarification regarding the judge's dismissal. So let's get into it. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Richard Hart here. Wanted to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope everyone out there is having a good time. Some people are going to be spending Christmas with friends and family and, enjoying being surrounded by love and happiness. And some of you guys out there, man, the holidays suck. You're like, hey, where's all the good stuff? Where's all the cheer and joy? So I'm here to say hello and hopefully brighten up some of your guys' days, nights, wherever you are in the world.
I'm feeling good.
And I just want to say, I'm very proud of you guys. You guys have achieved some things that really no one in the world thought you'd ever be able to achieve. I mean, if you think about it now, Hex just had its 5th birthday, Hex.com. And, well, at least Hex, the ERC20 token, and related awesome software that people execute on the Ethereum chain and now on Pulse chain, it's 5 years old. And it's run perfectly for 5 years, while so many things all around have failed entirely. We see chains that go down. We see chains that aren't down but have massive centralization risk. Like a lot of Ethereum L2s. They claim to be backed by the security of the Ethereum network, but in reality, there's a single sequencer, and if that single sequencer turns off, no one ever can get their money again. It's just turned off. Which kind of negates the whole idea of a blockchain. Blockchains are here to remove middlemen. And if you've got a single sequencer, well, that's a middleman. And begging middleman for your stuff sucks. That's why crypto was invented. There's so many people out there. I've seen reports now that like Coinbase is asking people for things that look to be beyond AML KYC. Like, not only who are you, what business do you do, show us all your transactions, but also where did your wealth come from before? And I don't know if these are, they seem real, I guess. It's crazy that crypto was invented to remove middlemen. And then people still have to beg like peasants for middlemen to do their jobs. So I want to make your lives better. That's what I've dedicated my life to. I retired many, many, many years ago. And what I care about is you guys doing well, which is why I spend so much time thinking about how to make your lives better. So if you haven't already done it, download the free self-help books that I made.
And how many millions of dollars did he spend in the defense of Hex PLS in the United States SEC case with the same lawyers that Elon Musk hired for his dealings with the SEC? Like, it's a lot of money.
The world and SciVive. They're at t.me/SciVive, and if you just Google them, I'm sure you can find a PDF on Wayback Machine or something, archive.org, who knows, or go and chat. And people have even read. There's a very nice lady named A Wild SJ who's actually read the audiobook on YouTube, and you could just listen to her read the whole book to you. How awesome is that? Her and some other people also did a rendition of the oral arguments at the motion to dismiss trial with the SEC that sued me and Hex and Pulse Chain and pretended that software that you run from the comfort of your home on your own computer is somehow magically an unincorporated entity. You're an alter ego of me. It's like, okay, guys, I hate to break it to you, but I can't control what people do in the privacy of their homes. They do what they want. They run what they want. So I think it's cool that we've got a community member that cares so much that out of the kindness of her heart, she's reading things to you. That's very nice. You know, some people have drives. They don't have the time to read. They've got hard lives that they have to work. So, before I tell you some cool tips on how to like reduce your counterparty risk as far as exchange goes, I just want to mention, you know, I'm excited. I think that the judge historically, you know, issues rulings on motions to dismiss in 60 days on average. I mean, I'm not an expert, but that feels
That would
around
be the
right.
end of February,
And
which
I
turned out
think
to be
that
true because
we've got a
now
great
it's 2 weeks
shot for a
after
great
the end of
ruling,
February,
better
and we
than
have a
any of the other
ruling.
cases I've seen in crypto world. And that would be great. It would be great if the judicial branch checked the balances and the overreaching of power of the executive branch, where the executive branch is basically violating your rights under the color of law. So you want to communicate with other people, you want to do math and publish it in an immutable blockchain online. Publishing software is protected by the First Amendment. Publishing code is protected by the First Amendment. We've seen cases about this. You know, Phil Zimmerman, when he wanted to publish PGP, which stands for Pretty Good Privacy. And I think there was another case where someone wanted to publish a game. You know, we've got cases that support anonymous speech where there was a law that said you couldn't hand out political flyers unless you doxed yourself, and they said that was unconstitutional in the Supreme Court. At least I think it was the Supreme Court. Might have been a lower court. It's, you know, it's not that easy to be an expert at all things, right? So I'm an expert in cryptocurrency. I'm an expert on some other things. Now I guess I'm pretty okay at law, right? Because I've been doing so much research there, trying to protect everybody's rights. It's
I don't know where it started, but I heard a rumor that Richard Hart is actually a attorney now. Don't know the details about that, but just throwing that out there.
kind of cool, I guess. I kind of like being good at stuff, and I think understanding the law is nice. It's cool. It's just unfortunate that the executive branch has overstepped and pushed the bounds so far with actual censorship programs against Americans, which, you know, I had my channel blocked on YouTube because I did a video on how to wash your hands for COVID. So it caught a COVID keyword and I got banned. How unfortunate is that? Oh, you made a hand washing video, ban. Yeah, I'm tired of all these middlemen. I'm tired of the gatekeeping. It's terrible. Like people that were wrong about everything are silencing the voices of the people that were right about everything. That's not how a society can make progress. You know, a society makes progress when the right people have their voices amplified and the wrong people get to be quiet and sit in reflection and try and do better next time. There's just too much. There's too much of the wrong people pushing their narratives into the world and crowding out the truth. So if you remember, I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech and freedom of movement. I believe they're rights guaranteed to you by the Constitution of the United States of America and by the Charter of Human Rights from the United Nations and in many other founding documents of other entities, of other nation states and organizations that quite simply state that you deserve the right to speak to other people. You deserve the right to, you know, redress government and present your problems to government and try and find solutions. You have the right to travel. And, you know, entities that take these rights away from you under the color of law outside of their authority, it's not good. It's not good for the world. So, one, shout out to Wild SJ. Thanks for reading all those cool things. Two, excited for the ruling. It would be great if the judge, you know, would enforce the checks and balances of government and not let the executive branch remove the rights of the people to run the software they want, to communicate and associate with others and publish what they want to publish and not interfere with that. That'd be fabulous. You know, that's why blockchains exist, is to empower the humans. It's to remove middlemen. It's to remove counterparty risk. It's to, you know, what's a blockchain? It's just a peer-to-peer publishing network that publishes math, securely verified, cryptographically verified, secure speech, which, by the way, the SEC would have loved to have had when they didn't have two-factor authentication turned on and their Twitter account got hacked and it sent messages which manipulated the Bitcoin market regarding the approval or disapproval of the ETF for Bitcoin. If they
which are
had
now
used,
approved.
say, Pulse Chain for authenticated speech, then everyone could see whether it was really the authorized account that was issuing that speech or not, because it would be protected by their private key. And so there would be cryptographic proof that those were authentic statements from the SEC, and then perhaps the market wouldn't have been manipulated by the SEC's Twitter account.
So there are platforms now like DBank and Mirror.xyz, where to create an account, you have to sign a message with the private key of your Ethereum wallet or Pulse Chain wallet. So there's nobody that can fake you posting things unless they somehow have the private key also.
So the SEC would benefit from the secure speech protections and cryptographic security protections of a blockchain such as Pulse Chain, but instead they're out there trying to destroy blockchains, which is wild. I watched Representative Torres.
I think they're trying to destroy competition or maintain some sort of angle of control over this new industry.
If I have his name right, grilling one of the SEC commissioners and saying, hey, in the Stoner's Cats case, when you guys ordered that art to be destroyed, those NFTs, isn't that a violation of the First Amendment? And the person that was responding at the time, who I believe was Carolyn Crenshaw, one of the only commissioners to vote against, one of two commissioners to vote against the Bitcoin ETF after they lost in court the challenge that ruled them arbitrary and capricious in denying the Bitcoin ETF. Even Gary Gensler sided with the court and said, yep, the court said that, our disapproval of the ETF didn't make any sense. It was arbitrary and capricious. He didn't say those words, but I'm assuming that was what his thought process was. And then instead of denying, he voted, so the commission voted 3-2 to approve the Bitcoin ETFs. And now look at the Bitcoin ETFs. It's the most successful ETF launch in the history of ETFs, period. And they delayed that for a decade. Not cool, guys. We could have got here many years earlier, but you guys stood in the way of progress. And so, I hear Carolyn Crenshaw is not going to be confirmed by the Senate because they couldn't find the time to put
Is
in
that
a
true?
confirmation hearing. They ran out of time.
Carolyn Crenshaw.
And she, I guess, had to be one of the most anti-crypto people in
SEC commissioner.
in the SEC, because she voted against the ETF even after the court ruled the SEC commission arbitrary and capricious in denying the Bitcoin ETF. To rule against the court and to just ignore the court order, that's crazy to me. That's not checks and balances. We're supposed to have a three-party government: legislative that writes the law, executive that executes the law, and judicial that makes sure everybody else is doing their job right. Well, man, I see a lot of lawfare out there. I see a lot of the process as the punishment. It's unfortunate. It wastes.
It's showing Carolyn Crenshaw is on the list of SEC commissioners. Last reviewed January 29. So that is after Trump's swearing into the presidency.
A lot of people's time. Those executive branch resources could be used going and getting the bad guys, and there's no shortage of bad guys out there. There's really no shortage. So, how to protect yourself from counterparty risk on exchanges? Since crypto was invented to remove middlemen and remove you having to beg for your money, it would be really great if you didn't expose yourself to extra counterparty risk by giving other people your keys or by sending your coins to an exchange in a quantity larger than necessary. Now, to say send your coins, it's not actually accurate. You're not actually sending your coins. You're updating a global shared ledger using your private key.
Listen, he's explaining how this actually works. What is it? Like, finance has to be redefined because of what he's saying here.
To allocate certain
Listen, I'll
database
rewind it.
values are actually accurate. You're not actually sending your coins. You're updating a global shared ledger using your private key to allocate certain database values to certain other database values.
Instead of banks and central banks and the Federal Reserve banks being the only one with the authority or keys to update these databases, blockchain now is you're directly interacting with blockchain with your own keys. If you have a wallet with money in it, you have a key. But there really is no wallet either. It's more like software that stores your key so that you can make updates to the blockchain database.
So when you quote, send your coins to an exchange, really the exchange is issuing you a unique address to send to, or depending on the chain, they might not be a unique address, but they might use a memo to track that you sent. This was from you. But let's say, in Ethereum, you're going to have a unique address to send to that's just for your account. And in Bitcoin, you're going to have a unique address to send to that's just for your account. And they're going to track that you, from your private wallet, quote, sent coins, but really just meant took database values that your private key controlled and then sent them somewhere else. I mean, it's not really sending, right? You're not actually sending anything. The coins were on the chain. They're still on the chain. They didn't move. They're still.
If you're sending coins from your wallet to another wallet, what really is happening is the database is updating the fact that now you have such and such amount of less coins, and the receiving address has the same amount more coins. It's just addition and subtraction, but it's done so securely. That's the main thing, is that it's done using cryptographic hashes for security, and nobody can change that except the key holders.
Still on the chain. You're just changing some database values. I think it's an important concept to understand because
I think I get it.
Your wallet isn't a wallet. It's a keychain. It just has a collection of keys.
Mhm.
And your keys aren't really keys. They're, quote, private keys, which is like a fancy cryptographic term. And they just give you the ability to update certain database values in a shared ledger. And most of these database values are just made up fantasy. And we, the humans, have imagined that they have value. And they're nothing like real property or real possession. If you have a physical dollar and you make a photocopy of it, that next dollar that you photocopied isn't real. It's not real.
So I believe that some countries have deemed Bitcoin is some sort of asset or commodity. But if you look at how the technology actually works, there are no coins. It's just values in a database, and the private key holders are the only ones authorized to update that row, that specific row and column. That's one address. Ah, shit. Where was I? I lost. I zoomed ahead maybe like 30 seconds. Hold on a second. Maybe like 13. Yeah, I think I was at 13. Sorry about that, guys.
Networks have a fork,
Go back a bit.
certain database values in a shared ledger. And they're, quote, private keys, which is like a fancy cryptographic term. And they just give you the ability to update certain database values in a shared ledger. And most of these database values are just made up fantasy. And we, the humans, have imagined that they have value. And they're nothing like real property or real possession.
Like the collective belief that
If
a
you have a
dollar
physical
is
dollar
worth.
and you make a photocopy of it, that next dollar that you photocopied isn't real. It's not real. But when blockchain networks have a fork and they upgrade or change, the new thing which is created is just as real as the thing that was left behind.
Mhm,
And the only actual difference is the values that people imagine onto the things.
mhm.
So for instance, Ethereum existed and it had a value, but where did it come from? Well, it came from a fork between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And Ethereum Classic wanted to have one, group of consensus parameters where they kept some DAO hacker quote. It's a long story. Anyway,
Yeah.
when blockchains fork and you
Bitcoin
have
to Bitcoin Cash,
quote coins on two chains,
Ethereum to Pulse Chain.
database values on two chains, people can imagine whichever one's more valuable. I'll give you an example, Hex. Hex existed on Ethereum for 5 years now. Perfect, flawless operation, while everything else all around crypto very often has problems. Hex has operated perfectly, flawlessly for 5 years. A miracle, really. Very well designed software.
It is.
And then a fork happened.
Hem.
And born was Pulse Chain. And Pulse Chain has faster blocks and lower fees and higher,
Throughput.
less inflation.
So which one's more valuable, Ethereum or Pulse Chain? I mean, in my mind, I believe Pulse Chain's more valuable because it's an improvement. However, price does not always equate to value. And sometimes it takes time for the price to catch up to the value. People need to realize something has value, and then it becomes more expensive in terms of price.
So a higher, well, it's inverted. It basically inflates less. The base inflation is lower because the rewards for each block are lower. So when that fork happened, and it was a full system state fork, everything that existed, all the database values that existed on Ethereum, now also exist on Pulse Chain. And so if you had Ethereum on the Ethereum network, now you've got Pulse on the Pulse network, Pulse Chain. It would be great if
Pulse
the
Chain
Pulse
network.
domain wasn't taken, but it is. PULSE is taken, so you end up with something longer, Pulse Chain. That's what's so one of the other miraculous things about Hex. It's a 3-letter dictionary.com name. Nearly impossible to ever see
PULSE.
those. Extremely rare. Very, very, very cool.
You could have gotten the 5-letter
in my opinion.
dictionary.com name.
Very cool brand.
Pulse.com.
So, unlike physical things that you can't just make copies of, and if you did make a copy, the new thing may not have or likely does not have the same validity as the original thing. In blockchain, sometimes the copied thing has more value than the original thing. So for instance, Hex on Pulse Chain is more valuable than Hex on Ethereum. Why? Because that's what people imagined. And that's what people voted with their actions and decided. That's what the network of humans emergently found consensus on. That's what price discovery is. Price discovery in a free and open market is human beings deciding what's more valuable to them. And that's a good and honest process that you cannot shortcut with decrees from above. Trying to have governments decide what things should cost has never worked. The free market and all the information that goes into the free market that's constantly measuring everybody's preferences and desires and abilities and allocating the resources of the people, that's the best thing the world's ever seen as far as resource allocation and progress has gone. And they came up with a name for it. They call it capitalism. Works very well. Works amazingly well. If you close your eyes and look around the room you're in, everything good that you see that you like is created by capitalism. And nothing that you look around in the room that you like was created by something that wasn't capitalism, for the most part, almost entirely. So, long story short.
So, like some other countries, they're not called capitalism, but it is capitalism.
If you want the world to be a better place, peer-to-peer open source software with cryptographic security is a miracle. It's the best performing asset class that has ever existed. Bitcoin is making new all-time highs. Ethereum hasn't made new all-time high yet. So, several years ago, Ethereum was $5,000. I think today it's near 4,000. It's like mid threes, something like that.
Damn. Today it's 2,000, 1,800. Holy shit.
It's not bad. I remember back when it was a lot cheaper.
It's been sold down a lot, but
I think
you got
in the last 5 years, I remember Ethereum
corporations
being
like
$88
BlackRock
at one point.
Yeah.
Now it's 35, 34, something like that. And then Bitcoin, when I was mining it, it was 50 cents. And now it's 100, well, it's like 96,000, something like that. That's not bad.
Richard's an
to go,
early
adopter.
China 50 cents, that's
out,
like 2010.
It went from 5K to 3K over
it's like
2
2011
weeks.
or 10.
3K then, 100K now. That's not bad. 33x in 7 years. That ain't bad. 7.5 years maybe. That ain't bad. I think people don't realize how up Hex still is, by the way. If you look at Hex, the Hex that's less valuable, the Hex that's on the more expensive network to transact. I mean, I looked at Etherscan, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago, and I saw that people spent $35,000 on gas fees on Ethereum to execute Hex code. That's 35 grand that goes to enrich the validators of the Ethereum network. That's 35 grand that doesn't go into buy pressure for the Hex tokens on either network. So if you didn't waste 35 grand, it's not really wasting it, but if you didn't spend 35 grand on execution on that network, that could have been 35 grand of economic energy that went into the Hex price instead of to the Ethereum price. Since we're talking about the concepts of supply and demand.
Another reason why Hex on Pulse Chain
maybe
is
that's why people
more
prefer
valuable.
the Pulse
Because it
on,
costs
or rather the
less.
Hex on Pulse Chain, because they like to pay
There's less
100x
waste.
or
It's more
1000x
valuable.
less for executing the same code. Pretty cool.
Yes.
All right. So I feel like it's been a long time, but we're finally going to get to it. How to reduce your counterparty risk with exchanges. Don't send them more money than you have to. Send them a little bit at a time. Send them a little bit at a time. Send them a little bit at a time. Why? Because you don't trust these people. Because at any moment, they could seize your money and just be like, hey, now it's our money. Good luck. Beg us for it. Cry.
And if you're selling coins for profit, do a little bit at a time. Like, it hurts the price less.
Beg. Get on your knees. Beg. Beg for your money. And who are you begging? Some guy that doesn't know much about much, that probably doesn't speak as his primary language, the language you speak, that probably doesn't care that much about you, and, is probably not making that much money. So maybe this guy's getting 15 or 20 bucks an hour to dick you around for what could be millions. That's unfortunate. And that's the opposite of why blockchains were existed. And it's entirely avoidable if you just submit yourself to less counterparty risk by using smaller transactions in a higher frequency instead of larger transactions in a lower frequency. Now, beware, because the governments of certain nations have enacted something called structuring. And structuring is where if you're trying to hide something by using smaller transactions, then you get in trouble. So, depending on what country you live in, I don't think structuring applies to purely honest activity. I think you can only have structuring if you're trying to hide something illegal you did. But hey, not a lawyer. I'm just warning you that by exposing yourself to less counterparty risk, which is a good and awesome and wholesome thing, someone somewhere in the world could try and twist that against you. So just be aware of it,
I think what he's referring to is like bank transactions. Like, if they want to know, like, it's a different category of reporting if you receive over $1,000 or you send over $1,000. So by transacting $999, like, that might look suspicious if the law is like that.
I don't think I'm not an expert on it, but I don't really think I've seen crypto structuring cases. I don't think so. Just something to be aware of. And there's probably countries where that doesn't matter. I think that's an American thing. What else? Yeah. So imagine, and this doesn't work with just exchanges. This works with reducing counterparty risk in any transaction with any party. So if you were to buy 100 marbles from someone, in theory, you could say, okay, let's trade 1 marble, 2 marbles, 4 marbles, 8 marbles, 16 marbles, 32 marbles. And then your risk is just the risk of the last transaction, assuming you were using like a network that finalized, right? Like your payment couldn't be stolen back from you. Like credit cards, they can just take the money back out of your merchant account. Oh, you're approved. Oh, yeah, so the transaction went through. But what really that means is you're approved to get that money stolen back from you at any time in the next 6 months if the person charges it back and says, take the money back from the merchant. So there's a lot of networks that don't finalize. And I think even exchanges treat like wire transfers differently than ACHs. I think ACHs are easier to reverse than wire transfers. So like it's nice to have a network that actually finalizes a transaction, such as a blockchain. You know, once you wait 15 minutes in Ethereum, you've reached finality. You're not going to be able to roll that back. It's pretty neat. And it's, I think, 17% faster to reach finality in Pulse Chain. But, you know, check the math. It's hard to do math when you're like speaking publicly. Yeah, so that's the trick. That's the tip. You don't have to expose yourself to large counterparty risk with exchanges, but you just use smaller amounts and higher frequencies, and then you get the same job done without them being like, ha ha ha, beg us for your money. That's a terrible place to be. And I got to tell you, it's an extremely common place for people in cryptocurrency. You know, you've seen all these reports about Operation Checkpoint 2.0 debanking people, which is a
Which
fancy
is
way of saying like
over, by the
sanctioning.
way.
Like
Checkpoint,
when the United
choke
States
point
sanctions other countries
2.0
to
is over
punish them, they remove
as
them
of
from the
this month.
banking system, basically, right? Or at least the parts of the banking system that they control. And they do that same thing to American citizens. Kind of what looks like outside of due process in some cases, which is why, for instance, the Coin Center, shout out to Peter Van something, Valkenburg, Peter, oh, anyway, can't remember his name, Peter Van somethingberg. Shout out to him at Coin Center. The Richard Hart Twitter account recently posted a talk on privacy from him, and they won their lawsuit against the Treasury Department for sanctioning software code that was Tornado Cash. And so the judicial branch had to execute and do its job to roll back overreach by the executive branch. And then they kicked that back down to the circuit court to like fix it or whatever, which I guess looks like removing it from the sanctions list. I think that's what that looks like. And lawyers have said, you know, you shouldn't use the Tornado Cash network if you're under the control of the sanctions regime until it's removed from the sanctions list, even though they lost in court. At least that's what the lawyer said. So if you're American, probably don't use Tornado Cash until it really is removed from the list. But this idea that, you know, the executive branch can just, without due process, state that here's thoughts Americans can't have, or here's code Americans can't run. It's like, did someone write a law about that? Has there been any debate about that? Have the people decided that they wanted to give up the right to speak in that way and publish that kind of speech with math? You can't publish math and speech about this topic. Sounds like, you know, which is probably why they lost their case, is my guess. But read the ruling, right? You can read the ruling on how Coin Center beat Treasury, and the judicial branch ruled in favor of Coin Center against the Treasury Department in regards to the Tornado Cash sanctions. And you see this in a lot of places. You know, recently the Richard Hart Twitter account tweeted about the Institute for Justice. Those guys just recently got the DEA to stop stealing people's money at the airport. The DEA would get tips from
I
people
like
about
how
who bought.
he's like, the Richard Hart account on Twitter tweeted this. Like, it's not him. Like, maybe there's someone else running his Twitter account. Could be. Who knows?
Plane ticket in a short time frame and with cash, apparently, or just in a short time frame. And then they would go and say, hey, can I search your stuff? And people would be like, no, you can't search my stuff. What's going on here? And then there's a video of it. There's a video of a DEA agent basically harassing a guy and taking his stuff, his possessions from him and searching them. And there was nothing there. But what's this? How do you have a Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure when the quote reasonable suspicion or articulable suspicion or probable cause or whatever that they use to search you is just like you bought a plane ticket? Okay. So now what? There's just no Fourth Amendment for people that fly? So anybody that buys a plane ticket can just get searched up and harassed and pulled off the plane and have their stuff searched by someone that's not airport security and doesn't have anything to do with securing the plane, and it's just to look for cash to literally take from you. Apparently, they also do this with FedEx. So I'm not an expert on these things. I don't live in the United States, but occasionally I learn stuff. Apparently, they have agents that just sit in FedEx and have dogs sniffing for cash, and if they find like cash, they just jack it. But they do it for FedEx, but not the United States Postal Service. Interesting. Like, okay,
Allegedly.
I don't know, man. So like basically, if you want checks and balances to work, somebody has to act as the check and balance, and that's the judicial branch. And in order for the judicial branch to do its job, somebody has to bring the case. And so unless you have someone that's willing to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money and have a lot of risk of blowback, you don't get progress, because the judges and the judicial branch can't bring these cases on their own. So someone has to bring the case, because there's an adversarial system. There's a prosecutor and defense, plaintiff and defendant. So you've seen Coinbase sue the SEC in Texas. You've seen I think you saw Consensus sue the SEC in Texas, but I think they dropped the case. Not totally sure. You've seen the SEC get sued in Texas over their broker rule, which they lost. You've seen recently there's some like ultimate beneficial owner information for small businesses, which people were supposed to collect because the administrative state of the executive branch decided it should be so. And then a court in Texas said, nope, we're putting an injunction. You can't do that. It's a violation of people's privacy. And then another court, the Fifth Circuit, said, oh, we're staying that actually. And so they stayed the injunction, which re-enabled the reporting, which is bad. You're like, oh, well, I guess the administrative state is taking over and pretending to be the legislators and writing all the law. And you're like, man, that's not how checks and balances is supposed to work. So someone has to bring these cases. And so the, fire.org or the fire, I can't remember the exact name, and the Institute for Justice, these are two kind of entities that brings cases to try and protect people's freedom of speech, and I know that the Institute for Justice at least accepts crypto. Now, Bitcoin's at new all-time highs. So, or recently was. So Bitcoiners feel, in my opinion, more rich than other guys that aren't at new all-time highs. Ethereum is not at new all-time highs. Ethereum hasn't went over 5K. It's barely gone over 4K.
Still not at all-time highs.
So if Bitcoiners are feeling much richer, and it's before the end of the year when a lot of people are, looking for deductions and looking for write-offs if they had profit or whatever, like, it's good to know that there's a place that accepts crypto that may share your values and want to protect free speech. And so maybe Bitcoiners want to donate to the Samurai Wallet devs defense, or maybe they want to donate to the defense of the Tornado Cash devs, one of which is in prison in the Netherlands, and one is which is coming up to trial shortly, Roman Storm in the States.
Yep.
And then
worth it.
So probably
if you had
the
extra
Roman
money,
Storm case, probably the new interesting hot one.
It's important,
like,
but it's also important
for defense. I don't really know much about the Samurai case.
Buy the investments
other than I think
a good opportunity when the price is
made
down,
a Bitcoin mixing software. I don't even, like, in the case of Tornado Cash, it's not even a mixer. You get in what you get out what you put in. I'm not exactly sure the details on Samurai, but these are just cases of people that wrote code, devs, catching charges. It's a bad precedent to set, like code of speech. Now, maybe their charges go past the speech part, but it'd be nice for the courts to delineate that and protect speech. I'm for speech. I'm for freedom. I'm for publishing truth. I'm for the association of individuals. I think it's a wholesome and honest thing. And I think that when you become a federal employee, you often sign an oath that says you support the Constitution. And if you don't understand that that is what the Constitution does, it restricts the government from restricting you. It's a set of rules that restricts the government from restricting you. So when you become a federal agent, employee, officer, whatever, you take an oath to pledge allegiance to support the Constitution. Well, man, if you don't understand what the Constitution is, how are you going to support it? So it's very important that somebody bring cases to help the checks and balances and help the judicial branch get justice for the people, or else it just won't happen. There's a lot of things in the world that didn't get better over the last 10 years. They got worse. And, kind of using the good system that was set up for you with the checks and balances is important. So anyway, that's some like legal education stuff, how you can reduce your counterparty risk with exchanges. And on like Pulse Chain, PulseX, Inc, Hex, they're all functioning flawlessly. They have tons of features. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're code that you download and execute and run in the comfort of your home with no counterparty risk or the minimum amount of counterparty risk. You know, there's some things where you can't totally remove counterparty risk, but you really do the best you can. It's a beautiful, amazing invention. It runs great. And the only thing it really needs is eyeballs. Think about the absolute garbage and trash that people will put their life savings into. So someone will make a coin about spitting on peepees. So for instance, the Haktua coin. Or people will make a coin about a picture of a dog. Or people will make a coin about whatever. And is that progress? Is it progress for human beings?
It's been done before.
To care so much about random,
so many narrative meme coins.
Silly for the purpose of being silly things.
Cultural meme
when there are other things which are more
that
useful to the
aren't
world.
really meaningful.
You know, I think a token or coin that helps foster the free speech among individuals and maintain a secure network of communication is better.
I think that has
more
value.
Useful to the world than something that's made to be stupid on purpose. And I think things, if you care about supply and demand, I think things that can burn and never inflate are tilted towards better progress than things that inflate. So, you know, why is tomato soup so expensive? Well, it's not because tomatoes are harder to grow. It's not because cans are harder to make. It's because you're looking at a chart in dollars and the dollar keeps going down versus everything because they keep minting it out of thin air like a joke. Like a joke. Why does someone care about the money you work so hard for when they can get it fresh hot off the press from the guys that print it all day, every day? So, you know, if you look at PulseX. I think a couple days ago it burnt $300,000 in a day worth of coins. Now, mind you, once again, they're not really coins; they're database values.
You can go to gopulse.com
they were just
and
basically
see
destroyed
how
and made
much
expendable.
PulseX is burned.
You know, there's a lot of nuance in there, but long story short is, if you look at the chart of PulseX and you see how much supply has been burnt, it's massive amounts of supply. And it's neat, you know. It's like if you have a Ferrari. So if you have a Ferrari SF90, the values are just terrible now. You know, it's not like an F40 or an F50.
Almost 1% of the entire supply has been burned.
Bought it. The price is down massively from where you could have originally bought it. Why? Because there's no limited supply. They keep making them. They just keep making them. They made too many. There's a lot of SF90s out there.
1.3 trillion coins.
If you look at other cars where there isn't that same amount of supply,
$38 million
supply and demand is real.
The price is down.
And it
was over $100 million at some point.
Both sides
recently.
Matter. Demand matters, supply matters. But the idea that in PulseX, that if you look at how much economic value gets burnt and destroyed every day, it seems like it's 50 to 70 on average recently. And then if there's a spike of volume, it goes up to 300. That's cool, man. You know, I think that those rates of supply shrinkage are higher than the rate of supply shrinkage you see in ETH.
Because more trade volume happening on the PulseX exchange is more transaction fees, and therefore a portion of the fee automatically sells itself through a decentralized contract, sells to buy PulseX, and then that PulseX is sent to the burn address. So the price gets bought up, and then that supply gets deleted forever. It sits in the burn address, but it's inaccessible by anyone forever. It's amazing. I don't see any other project that did the buy and burn. And even 2 years since it launched, I don't think anyone's even copied the idea.
And I think it's higher than the rate of supply shrinkage you see in Pulse Chain. I think it's higher than the rate of supply shrinkage you see in Hex. I think it's a very cool invention.
I do too. Thank you,
And it
Richard.
works great. You know, I think if you care
Does
about supply and demand, you care about things becoming more rare, something that just, you know, people execute code that destroys lots of stuff all the time, leaves you with less supply. I think it's a cool looking chart. I think it's a very cool looking chart. Go look at the chart. Go to, I don't know, you can go to Dex. Well, I try not to send people to places that show a million stupid coins if I can avoid it. So I guess you could go to like, you could go to gopulse.com and click like the chart. And I guess you could see it there. Also, some people are trading, another tip for you guys. Some people are trading coins on, like, how do I explain this? On some charts, when you look at it, the first, so it'll be like, let's say you're looking at Ethereum, ETH/USD. What that means is the chart you're looking at, if ETH goes up in value, the chart goes up. If ETH goes down in value, the chart goes down. But that's because ETH is the first thing. If you inverted it and said USD/ETH, then it would flip the chart upside down. And then when ETH went up in value, the chart would go down. See? So it inverts it. So on this website that a lot of people use to chart, you know, the hundreds of other coins, thousands of other coins that are on Pulse Chain and other networks, there's an option in the bottom right with 3 dots that you can click, and it's outside the trading view window. It's like in that website's kind of like extra little menu. It's not the hamburger menu. It's like the bottom right 3 dots. If you click that, it has an invert pair option, which is awesome. Because then you don't have to do it in TradingView. You don't have to right-click the price bar in TradingView and tell that to invert. And when you do that, your reds and greens are mixed up. So like a green candle will go down instead of up, and a red candle will go up instead of down. That kind of sucks. It makes your chart look weird. So it's nicer to just use that other one layer outside kind of menu to invert. And then that's going to put the thing you care about in the front. So like for instance, what's an example I could use? I'm trying not to mention coins. Why do I not mention coins? I really like things that have low counterparty risk and amazing like features and stuff. And there's just a lot of coins out there that aren't as good. So let's have an example of coins I think are cool. So let's say you wanted to chart Pulse versus PulseX for fun. You could pull that up, right? And then if you cared about the Pulse price, well, there's 2 tricks. One is that bottom 3 dots thing where you can invert the pair. And another trick is in the top, in the trading view like interface, you can tell it that you want to see the USD price or that the price of the other token. So if you're just looking at like token versus token, it's going to natively show you the USD price. But let's say you didn't want to see the USD price. Let's say you wanted to see the actual token versus token chart. You click, you know, the toggle, which has USD/other coin, you know, and then it'll show you the price. So like a chart you might pull.
the USD is something that the website automatically converts for you, but it calculates based off of the ratio of the other coin. So that's why he said it's the real pair. Unless the actual pair is like PLS versus DAI or USDC, then yeah, no matter how you view it, it's going to be the same value.
Pull up is Pulse versus Ethereum, or W Pulse versus WETH, which is basically Pulse versus Ethereum. And then, you know, the native default that you look at might show Ethereum/Pulse, which is like an upside down chart, because you probably care about the Pulse price. So then you would click bottom 3 dots, invert pair, then that's going to stick Pulse in the front. So it's going to be Pulse/ETH instead of WPLS/WETH instead of, you know, what you want, which is WPLS/WETH. Then you're going to be able to have a chart with green going up, red going down, and it's going to show you like the 2 coins versus each other.
Like if you reversed the BTC USD chart so that the chart is actually USD BTC, then instead of the up forever Bitcoin chart, it's going to be like the down forever Bitcoin chart. But that just shows that the value of the dollar went down compared to Bitcoin over 15 years.
So that's like the tip and trick. You click the bottom three dots, you tell it to invert the pair so that what you care about, the price that you care about, is the first thing / the other thing. And then you can either toggle USD or other coin, depending on whether you want to see a USD chart or you want to see one coin versus the other. So maybe you care about WPulse versus WETH. You could do the same thing versus Bitcoin, and sometimes you've got to look up contract addresses to do it because it might be hard to find. Like on one of these charting sites, it's very hard to find Pulse versus DAI, for instance, which is the most liquid pair that people trade.
It's funny
The
that it's
most
hard to
liquid pair
find
people
that.
trade
Yeah.
in the Pulse chain ecosystem is Pulse chain versus DAI, but it's very hard to find that pair. So you've got to
Yeah.
go.
Thanks
You
a
got to
lot,
go
Dick
like
Screener. But instead
app.pulsex.com,
of the homepage, they list a
either
bunch of
download and
shitcoins.
execute the code, or use the IPFS code that runs in its little client, which I guess is just a browser, and then go to the PulseX like code screen, which lets you like swap stuff, and then choose a token you care about, which would probably be like Pulse versus DAI. And you're going to see a little copy icon there, like two little squares kind of overlaying each other, which means copy. If you click that copy, it copies the contract address. And then if you look at the top, it will actually show you the address of the pair. And so if you go to the top and you click that address pair, like the contract address of that pair of, Pulse WPLS versus WETH from Ethereum, you can double click that and paste that into other kind of like charting code or charting websites. And then that's going to show you that pair that's otherwise hard to find, which is probably one of the most important pairs to be looking at if you care about the prices of things on Pulse Chain, because it's the most liquid and it's the most popularly traded pair. I almost don't want to say most liquid because there is in theory, more liquid PulseX Pulse pair. But if you care about things that can like jump across like networks, which would be, so like when you look at the liquidity in the farms, which is like a shortcut to see like the most liquid pairs. Maybe one day one of the most liquid pairs won't be in a farm, but I think currently the most liquid pairs are. You ever looking at like,
hint, wink, wink. Yeah.
if I remember the ratios, the Richard Hart kind of tweeted these ratios before, because like if you want to get the best order execution and spread your economic energy over the most pairs, you kind of need to know these ratios, because either you can do it yourself or a bot's going to do it and you're going to get not as good deal. So you can like get better deals by like spreading your economic energy out across more pairs. I think you end up with most liquidity in DAI, and then like half that, so half of the DAI numerically seems like it's in USDC, and then USDT is kind of similar to USDC. And then I think like ETH would be like 80% of the DAI or 75.
Man, I really miss Richard Hart's live streams. Like, this is good, we're getting a lot of knowledge, but it's not a video and there's no other person that he's savaging completely. Like, there's plenty of his videos in the archive. Just go to Richard Hart on YouTube.com, and you can go through all his past live streams and all his videos, and all the knowledge is there. Like, I know it's different to go back and view the history, like what happened already, versus like when he's live streaming. We all watch that, but the knowledge is still as relevant now as it is back then. In fact, I think it's even more valuable now because he's not live streaming. Like, a lot of the people that are coming into Pulse Chain and Hex don't know like that side of him, don't know all the knowledge that he passed down to us. And so we got a lot of traders coming in that are getting wrecked because Hex is super volatile still. It pumps and then it comes back down, and then it pumps and then it comes back down. Anyway,
I'm just like doing this by memory. It's been a while since I looked at it. So like basically, if you were trying to spread orders across pairs to get better deals, you'd probably put most in the DAI pair, and then the WETH from Ethereum pair, and then USDC and then USDT, because that's like their order of liquidity from highest to lowest. At least that's how I remember it from last I looked. And so those kind of pairs are important to know the contract addresses of, even if you just want to just sit and like kind of look at what was going on in the market. One of the cool things is, trading on Pulse Chain and PulseX is more transparent than any legacy financial system in the world, because you can see in real time what address bought what and how much and what else that address has
It's fully
and what else that
transparent.
address has done and when it did it. And it's just amazingly transparent in its progress.
It's wonderful progress. And the only thing that's not transparent is the centralized exchange trades. Only they know exactly what happened. So it's quite good. We've had such a long history of not being on centralized exchanges because it just shows our track record.
So there's websites you can just sit there and look and say, oh, look, put in a filter and go, oh, show me all the orders over 100K. Here's all the 100K buys. Here's all the 100K sells. Here's all the other buys and sells they did. Are they in profit? Are they in a loss? It's
Hexstats.today,
cool. It's neat. It's kind of fun to watch.
apphex.win.
Speculative stickiness is what I would call that. Something fun to engage with and look at.
The look into sites,
Well,
like
anyway,
look into Maxi,
long story short,
is it look into
Pulse Chain's
Pulse?
amazing. PulseX is amazing. You guys are amazing. You're doing a great job. We've got a bunch of great news coming up. We got the ruling from the court soon, I hope.
There we go.
We've got new all-time highs in Bitcoin. Thanks for buying so much
New all-time
Bitcoin, Michael
highs
Saylor.
and X. No.
Helps everybody.
Yeah.
The rising tide raises all ships. We've got, and me, I'm living my best life. I've never been safer. I've never been more secure. I'm as bulletproof as I could possibly be. I have not a worry in the world. There's a lot of entities in the world that may not like me. There's a lot of entities in the world that may not like the free and open source software that I founded. There's a lot of entities in the world that might not like how I've been right about so much and they've been wrong about so much. They might not like that I care enough about you to speak to you on Christmas while they don't care about you. They don't care whether you live or die. And a lot of them prefer you harm. So a lot of the entities in the world, they don't like you and they don't want good things for you. I do like you and I do want good things for you. And it's not words, it's actions. See what I do and look at it and see what I keep doing. And it's for you guys. I care about you guys. So, yeah, I feel good, And in the end, look at Donald Trump. They shot him in the head. They took millions of dollars from him. They defamed him. They slandered him. They libeled him. They shut down servers of social media platforms he used. They attacked companies that tried to give him a voice. They harassed his family. They raided his house. They took things from his house. They arrested him. You could see his mugshot. They did everything they could to this guy. And he won. And now he's going to be president. And now he's doing the best he can to make the country a better place. And he's putting people in power that have a history of winning. He's putting a lot of smart people into places of power. That's awesome. That's amazing. I haven't lived in America in over 20 years, but I care about it and I'd like to see it do better. And so I try to make the world a better place. And a lot of the world's America. And I want America to be a better place. And so if we've got more checks and balance being executed by entities willing to take the risk and effort of bringing issues of justice up to the courts so that the courts can make better precedent and better law, that's amazing. I'm one of those people. I am one of the very few people in the world in court fighting for the rights of the people to associate with each other and to do math and publish that math. That's what I'm fighting for. Your rights to run the code you want from the comfort of your home and associate with people you want to associate with and speak the speech you want to speak. You want to upload the Bible to Pulse Chain? There's apps that you can use to do it. You want to upload court rulings to the Pulse Chain so that they're time stamped so that no one can ever say that this didn't happen at this time? You can do it. This is peer-to-peer open source code that you run from the pleasure of your home. And guess what? You also have the benefit that it just happens to be one of the best performing asset classes that's ever existed in the history of mankind. And I think you're early. I would love for more people to spread the word about, hey guys, you like Bitcoin? Well, guess what? Ethereum's better than Bitcoin. It's got higher throughput. It's got more features. It's got privacy if you want it. It's got, you name it. It's got world's first blockchain time deposit thing, Hex. It's, amazing. Okay. You don't like the fees? You don't like paying $50 to execute a swap, $30 to execute a swap, which isn't really a swap in legacy finance terms, but we'll just call it that, updating database values to go from one ERC20 standard thing to another, blah, blah, blah. If you like that and you want to do it for 100 or 1,000 times cheaper, that's Pulse Chain. So you want faster, you want more affordable, you want newer, well, Pulse Chain's here. And it's operated flawlessly since launch, just like Hex has operated flawlessly since launch. Pulse Chain's a 1.5 years old now. It's amazing. Everything that you want is there. It's absolutely amazing. It just needs more eyeballs. And so
it's done.
Outrage marketing can only take you so far, and there's a lot of personal blowback. So dressing like a clown and acting like a clown attracts the attention of people that care about clowns. But there's a whole portion of the world that does not care about acting like a clown. There's a whole portion of the world that's more serious. And, you've got the audience that cared about clown as far as you're going to get it. Think about how much smaller the influencer community in crypto is now. It seems like mostly losers. Like the people that seem to get listened to are in general losers. You're like, well, that's not good.
Actors on some payroll for a social media
the rest
company
of the world
that don't really care about what they're talking about.
Hey, let's go do the thing that losers do. No, they want to
paid
see what winners are doing.
To talk about coins that don't really matter, and they ignore the real innovation that's happening, like Pulse Chain, for example.
The community did more direct mail,
I love Pulse Chain and Hex, but
more things that
there
people
are
care
other
about
legitimate
in a professional
projects
manner,
out there.
then the rest of the world could be exposed to the miracle, the beauty of open source peer-to-peer communication and security in the most performative asset class that has ever existed in the history of mankind. It's a miracle. It's beautiful. So, and the only way they're going to find out about it is if somebody tells them about it. Just building amazing software and having an amazing network isn't enough. People have to use it. They have to avail themselves of it. How many people out there are executing code on bad networks with huge counterparty risk and ideas that are terrible? A lot.
Still
a ton. A huge amount. And why aren't they doing things that are better? Because they don't know those better things exist. And it's your job as a person that wants to make the world a better place.
So we got to send more postcards.
You have to tell them. It is no one else's job but your own. If you want to make the world a better place, you have to make it better yourself. And if you want people to do better, you've got to show them what doing better looks like.
We need to reach out and in person network with better quality people, become a better quality person ourselves, and upgrade our social circles. If not for ourselves, at least do it for the investments that we're in. The Hexagons, the 5555 Club. We're going to be here for at least another 10 years, right?
And it's on you guys. And that's why I think direct mail is so cool, is because it's a lot harder for people to censor your speech. If you want to put an ad on Google, they censor you. If you want to have a video on YouTube, they censor you. You have to beg the algorithm. Please, algorithm, I made a stupid face in my thumbnail. Can I please get some views, please? Right? And direct mail doesn't have that problem. You get to speak your speech to who you want to speak to about what you want to talk about. And there's no one turning off your account. There's no one, you don't have to beg the algorithm. And you're also supporting the economy, The ability for human beings in a society to communicate with each other is valuable. And even if it operates at a loss, it's valuable. People should be able to communicate with each other. And so if companies have to step in and spend money on mail carriers carrying mail to help support the infrastructure that allows human beings to communicate when they need to, it's good for society. And so, a lot of people might not like the shitty mail that's out there, the junk mail, the stuff that they don't care about. But the ability for the mail carriers to have jobs and for that entity to continue to make money, to continue to exist at reduced load on
At least
the
you have the
taxpayer
freedom to
is
send
valuable.
junk.
And so
Like,
I think direct mail is wholesome
it's
because it allows you more uncensored peer-to-peer speech.
better to
And I
send
think it's valuable because it
important
keeps the network
information, of
alive so that
course.
human beings can communicate with each other when they need to. You want to send a Christmas card to your mom? Okay, well, that somebody has to carry it there physically.
Yes.
Somebody has to pay them to do that. And sometimes it's cold, and sometimes there's rain, sleet, and snow. So I think direct mail is beautiful. And I think most of what you buy in digital marketing is just fake bots clicking ads. It's just entirely garbage and fake. So I like the real world. When I meet people, I like to meet them in the real world. And I think direct mail is a great opportunity for Pulse Chain, PulseX, and Hex if you're into communicating with your peers and teaching them about code that they can run at home and is amazing and has a lot of potential to make the world a better place. So that's it. I wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. I'm excited about the future. I've never been safer. I'm bulletproof. Everything is going good for me. And if certain people in the world don't like that, sorry guys, I've been planning for this my whole life. I've been planning for this exact type of thing my whole life. I'm ready, I'm prepared. And our people are prepared, which is why we've got perfect, flawlessly operating software that's decentralized and cannot be stopped
and the
by
software is
anybody, no
running
matter what.
flawlessly.
That's why blockchains were invented. And these are pure and beautiful examples of Satoshi's actual vision, which is removing middlemen. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
I still think what we've got coming is beautiful and amazing, and we just need eyeballs. That's
More
it.
eyeballs.
All we need is eyeballs, and everything else will
Direct
take care
mail.
of itself. And as far
Real
as
world stuff,
exchanges
in
go,
person.
look, the fact that people can
Be a good
execute code in the
example so
comfort of
that
their
people
home
want to
and
listen
bridge
to
over
you.
from Ethereum and have thicker order books with better price execution because there's more liquidity, that's superior, in my opinion, to having a bunch of little order books with bad price execution and thin order books and little stupid exchanges all over the place. And then if someone wants to on-ramp, they get a bad deal with a lot of slippage and bad order execution. And then the middleman that arbitrages that price that dude pushed up on his little exchange versus the big, thick, actual liquid real price on chain, the more honest and wholesome and beautiful and transparent one. When you buy an exchange, you don't know who you're trading with. Who am I trading with? But on chain, you can see who you're trading with. It's visible. This address did this and that and this. Now, it's not AML KYC visible, but it's like you can see what they're doing.
You can see the addresses. You don't know the name. Like, I don't know that if I'm trading with you, but it's pseudo-anonymous.
So, and in some cases it is. Like, if you're the exchange, you know, who you AML KYC, and you can tie it back to the rest of the transaction history, unless people use privacy software, which exists. So, my summary is, Hex
TLDR
went up 1,000,000% and was listed on basically no relevant exchange of note. And Pulse Chain and PulseX are doing fine, also being listed on basically no relative exchange of note. And so as long as there's peer-to-peer open source software that allows you to get from Ethereum to Hex, that's more than good enough. And people will get better order execution by buying the more liquid Ethereum on whatever exchange they're at and then bridging over and doing what they want to do than they would having little tiny order books and a bunch of other exchanges and getting worse order execution and less for their money. So using bridges and peer-to-peer open source software with minimized counterparty risk, in my opinion, is vastly superior to centralized exchanges. And the fact that Ethereum already went through a decade of that horror of being listed and, having market makers and all that, good. Well done, Ethereum. Thank you. We appreciate it. And come enjoy your free coins. You got free coins waiting for you on Pulse Chain.
World's largest free airdrop.
As long as you're on the Ethereum network before the fork. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. And Merry Christmas. Everything's going good. And I wish you a Merry one. Bye.
Speaking of the central exchanges, all of them, I think, pretty much got the airdrop as well, and we're waiting to see if they're going to get uh, their lovely, if they're going to give that lovely airdrop to their users. It's been almost 2 years of exchanges. Come on, let's go. If you haven't listed it, yeah. So before Pulse Chain launched, we were wondering, like, are they going to gatekeep Pulse Chain as well? And it turns out they did, which is interesting. It makes us really connect the dots to realize that they don't want real decentralized peer-to-peer technology dominant. Like, they want to be in control of their centralized exchanges, their centralized DeFi. Like, literally, they're calling it DeFi, but they're running it from the back end, which is, it's not too bad, but like, it's not decentralized enough. Okay. So, anyways, that's Richard's latest audio. Almost 4 months later, we hope that he does something soon. Like maybe uh, by March 20th is the deadline for the SEC to appeal to the judge. Uh, that's 7 more days, 6 more days. Then maybe it'll be official. The case is closed and Richard Hart can talk again. Other than that, I mean, we may need to wait for some closure for that Interpol case. Anyways, that was awesome. It's good to study Richard Hart's stuff from the past. It's relevant today. That's all for me.